I think the role of the lobbyist in New Hampshire might be a little different than the role of the lobbyist as people perceive it in Washington. In large measure, we could probably divide the work we do for New Futures and others really into kind of three categories. One category is just monitoring and watching what's going on in the legislature. So if somebody else brings something in that impacts New Futures, they're aware of it. Another part of what we do is direct advocacy on behalf of New Futures, working closely with their policy staff and their partners so that when there are issues at the legislature that we're either trying to defeat or affirmatively pass, we're in the committee rooms and in the hallways working with legislators to kind of advocate on behalf of New Futures. And then the other part of it is a kind of a communications role, that there's a lot that takes place at the State House that's impacted by what state reps read in the newspapers or see in television. And so kind of threading that communications through the advocacy and the monitoring is kind of the third component of what we do. I'm a contract lobbyist, so I work with my company, the DuPont Group, and we probably have a dozen or 15 different clients, and we're kind of the outside lobbying government affairs consultant. That's one type of lobbyist. Another type of lobbyist may be an in-house lobbyist, where somebody that works for a nonprofit or even a company, their full-time job is to lobby before the legislature. So a lot of times you hear people talk in New Hampshire that there's 400 registered lobbyists, there's more lobbyists than state reps. A lot of it are people that are just part-time, that if they go in and testify on one or two bills, they might have to register as a lobbyist. So there's probably maybe 50 or 75 people that lobby on a full-time basis before the New Hampshire legislature, and that's about an even mix between in-house lobbyists and contract lobbyists. I think New Futures needs lobbyists to be as effective as they are. As a leading advocacy organization at the State House, New Futures really has emerged as a voice of authority when it comes to budgetary and substance abuse issues. And so being able to coordinate and know when and where to apply that is a really important part of New Futures advocacy efforts. So having a lobbyist on board, I think, helps orchestrate the right context and inserting New Futures into the rhythm of the legislature. And also with that distinction of being leading advocate on these issues and a voice of authority on it, brings with it a sense of responsibility as well, that other organizations and even legislators now count on New Futures. So there's really a role for me as the lobbyist to help New Futures with their timing, with their advocacy, and with their communications at the legislature. One of the things I really enjoy about working with New Futures is that they have a CLI program, which is a leadership program where they bring in lots of different people and train them on how the legislative and the advocacy process works. So it's kind of the standing army of partners that when it's time to raise an issue at the State House, we know that we can turn on a dime and be impactful, because it's not just myself or the staff of New Futures that are before legislative committees or talking to the leadership of the governor's office. They know that behind that are hundreds of people that are active on this issue. So I guess that's a good part about working with New Futures, is that that people respect the organization, not only from that perspective of having a lot of active people, but because they're smart on the issues. That really what they bring to the table is a depth to their advocacy, that they know the issues inside and out. So I know that when I'm at the State House acting on behalf of New Futures, I've got a strong and supportive organization and one that's well respected at the State House. So that almost makes it too easy. So one of the other components of working with New Futures is that they have a grassroots network that is powerful, and it really makes the team work really well. us working as the outside lobbyists, the policy staff at New Futures, and the advocacy staff at New Futures, combined with this army of advocates that know when it's time to call the legislature, know when it's time to come visit the legislature, know when it's time to email, know when it's time to come to a rally. And I think what I really like about it is that when we train people to get involved, they, on the other side, respect the work we do, that we don't ask them to come in and lobby or ask them to make calls if it's not important. And so they feel, the advocates, that they're really contributing because they are. What works nice with the DuPont Group working as the lobbyists that are there at the State House all the time is it really can be good with the timing. Legislators get confronted with 1,000 pieces of legislation every year, and they can't become expert on all of them, so they rely on other people when they make decisions about how to act. So knowing when to time an advocate's phone call, or knowing when it's time to bring a half a dozen people to the State House is something that we bring to the team. And then the advocates coming at the right time really have an impact on the process. Why I might be the paid lobbyist from New Futures, what really matters is the volunteer lobbyists that come in and lobby at the State House. It's not very scary to do. It's a very receptive audience. In fact, I think when committee members look out into the audience and they see me and other lobbyists sitting there, they're like, all right, here we go again. But when actual constituents come in, they really listen to them, and they want information from those folks about how this piece of legislation is going to impact their lives or impact their business. And so the role of me as a lobbyist sometimes is really encouraging real people to come to the legislature and lobby on behalf of issues that are important to them.